other than communication. We are all involved in the process of communication since our childhood, and we spend almost 80% of our waking time on communication. When I say we spend almost 80% of our waking time on communication, we are actually involved in the 4 basic skills which are required to be effective communicator. And you will agree with me that these 4 basic skills are none other than the speaking, listening, reading, and writing. May I know from the group, out of the 80% of the time you spend on communication, how much you spend on speaking, listening, reading, and writing? Yes. Okay. Any other response? Very little in writing. Any response from Rayat Bara group of institutions? When we say 80% of your time is spent on communication, we are involved in 4 basic skills. So what is the time spent on speaking, listening, reading, and writing? I have got one response. Ji, any response you would like to give?
Any responses, please? Nee, you can speak from here as well. They'll be able to listen you.
Okay, let me know whether we speak more or listen more.
Yes. Listen more.
Okay, so one response I got from ETV Studio, and the person said maximum time is spent on speaking. Another response I got from Riyadh Bara, and the member says we listen more. In reality, it is a myth that we speak more. In reality, we listen more. And the research which has been carried out clearly points out that 45% of your time goes to listening, 30% goes to speaking, 16% goes to reading, and somebody said writing gets the minimal time. He or she is right. It is only 9% of the time we spend on writing. And it all depends upon the job activities and the responsibilities you perform, which will determine how much time you will spend on each one of these activities. It also depends upon the technology you use. Now, if I am standing face to face, then speaking and listening becomes the major activity. Now, if I am using a computer and I am accustomed to using the internet, then reading and writing takes the maximum time. Or if I am habitual of using a mobile phone and I am habitual of sending messages, again reading and writing comes into picture. But if I'm using the call messages, I'm giving a call, then it is more of speaking and listening. So it depends upon what technology you are using, what are your job roles and activities, which will determine how much time you will spend on each one of the 4 skills which are needed to be effective communicator. And you can read this statement which has been given by Chandra Mole. He is trying to compare a good communicator with a magician. He says the magician moves objects without touching them, cut things that come back whole, and make people float in air. A good communicator also creates magic using words, images, and ideas, and in turn, he or she is able to impact the thoughts, the action, and the destiny in itself. So, this is the effect of any effective communicator. And when I say communication in day to day life, It helps you in coordinating various activities. It helps you in building relationship with others. It also helps you giving information to others. Even if you need to motivate others, you take the help of communication. Or if there is a problem, there is a conflict, without communication, that problem cannot be solved or the conflict cannot be resolved. So every aspect of your life, whether it is personal life, social life, work life, has a very important component of communication. And when we think in terms of classroom communication, it assumes greater importance because you are interacting with your students to achieve certain preset
लेफ्ट तो
or
बोल रहा है सर
predefined.
₹950।
You try to achieve certain predefined set of instructional objectives. And research in the area has clearly highlighted the greater the effectiveness of the communication of a teacher, the higher are the chances that the instructional objectives will be achieved. And if we try to say communication, it has been defined in variety of ways. And people try to define this concept of communication as transfer of ideas, transfer of messages, transfer of thoughts, etc. But the best definition is communication is sharing of meanings. When I say communication is sharing of meanings, each word can have two meanings. One is the standard dictionary meaning of the word. Another is the meaning we attach as an individual on the basis of our experiences. Say, when I say mother, what comes to your mind? Yes? Related to it, what comes to your mind? Caring. What else? माँ के साथ सिर्फ केयरिंग यूज हो रहा है और कुछ loving. Okay, any response from the audience there in the centers?
Any response from
When I say mother, what comes to your mind?
love?
Okay, okay. So friends, here you can see, when I say mother, the standard dictionary meaning of the word mother is a person who gives birth to a child. But you are giving so many connotations attached to the word mother, like love, affection, care, nurture, the teacher, the first teacher, the first teacher of the child, and then you are saying that the person has positive connotations. This is based upon our experience with that kind of a person. But think of a child who has all the negative experience with the person called mother. Maybe the mother is nagging, punishing, criticizing, demoralizing, right? In that case, the child will interpret the word mother in a negative manner. So always when we come across certain language and the words, we try to give two meanings, one standard meaning, another meaning based upon our experience. And if both the denotative is the standard meaning, the connotative is based upon your experience. So if the sender and the receiver interprets the words in the same manner as both the denotative and connotative, the communication remains effective. If I interpret mother as a negative, you interpret mother as a positive, then there will be gap in communication. So communication becomes ineffective. In other words, we say communication is sharing of meaning, sharing of meanings. And classroom communication, when we take the case of classroom communication, then a simple definition of classroom communication is it is the process of receiving and sending and receiving messages distorted by noise within a context with some effect on an opportunity for feedback. So you can identify the major elements in the process of communication as you experience in your day-to-day communication. There is what you come across when we talk in terms of the elements in the process of communication. What are the major elements? Yes, quick, quick response I need. What are the various elements in the process of okay, fine. So sender is one. Okay, the receiver is another. The message is an important component, very right. Channel. Then you have the process of encoding and decoding, feedback and noise, and every communication takes place in a context. When we talk in terms of this, there is interrelationship among these elements. Sender is involved, leave कर दीजिए इसको. Sender is involved in conceiving an idea and translating that idea into symbols. That process is referred to as the process of encoding. And a message is designed, and message consists of verbal and non-verbal symbols, right? And messages transferred to the receiver through a channel. And this channel can be audio channel, visual channel, or a combination of the two. When you use audio tapes, you use a telephone, this is audio channel. When you use a picture, you use a slide, you use a diagram, a poster, this is all visual medium. Combination of the two, when you make use of a television, you make use of a video clip, you make use of a TV program, this is all audio visual. Or you make use of multimedia packages, they are all audiovisual channels. And the message is received by the receiver, and he is involved in the process of decoding. What is decoding? Okay, so interpreting the symbols to derive the meaning is the process of decoding. And there is a feedback which flows from the receiver of the message to the sender of the message. And based upon this feedback, the sender tries to adapt, modify, and sift the subsequent messages. Say, for example, I asked you a question. From which city are you? And you give me a response. Based upon your response, I'll pose another question to get data or information about your city. And likewise, this communication which takes place, there can be an element of noise. That is the process of communication. There are many barriers or hindrances which change the meaning of the communication. Say, for example, if you're using a telephone, there is a noise, maybe there is a noise in the line, and whatever you are saying is not discernible to the receiver. Or say, I'm using a video clip to convey some information and data, but the quality of the video is so poor that you are not able to either listen properly or you are not able to read the textual messages on it. That may be a hindrance. The noise element can be present in the sender, the noise element can be present in the receiver. Say, for example, you as a teacher, you are going to the class, but you are having headache. Would it affect your communication? How? How? What will happen to your communication? It will, yes. What will happen if you are having headache? Okay, maybe the teacher is in a hurry to complete the lesson, so the rate of delivery is very fast. Attention is diverted. The teacher may not invite interaction from the students, or yesterday you had traveled from UP and you have joined the program. Maybe you were tired and you were not able to focus and concentrate on what is being said. So that is also creating a hindrance. So any tiredness on the part of the sender or the receiver. Okay. So these are any factor that is within the sender or the receiver which hinders the process of communication is called internal noise. And what is external noise then? External noise is you are sitting in a classroom, somebody entering the classroom, banging the door behind, and there's a loud noise created, is external noise. You are sitting and two people sitting next to you, they start talking to each other. That itself creates a noise for the person. Or maybe somebody is tapping, कभी पेन को खोलते हैं कभी पेन को बंद करते हैं. Somebody tapping the foot on the footrest may create a noise which is external. Or maybe somebody outside, there is loud music going on. Or you all have a mobile and the mobile rings. That itself is external noise which creates disturbance in the process of communication. So there can be internal noise, there can be external noise, and this process of communication takes place in a context. Every communication has four different contexts. The very first context is where the communication is taking place. Is it at home? Is it in the classroom? Is it in the laboratory? Is it in the playground? Is it in the cafeteria? The communication which takes place at home is, yes, unstructured, unorganized, very open. But the communication which takes place in the classroom is formal, structured, organized. The communication which takes place in the coffee while you are sitting with a student or a colleague, it is very informal, very open, and you can discuss any issue, right? So the nature and content of communication varies depending upon the place where the communication is taking place. The second context is the psychological context. What kind of feelings exist within the sender and the receiver of the message? For example, when you joined the teaching profession, the very first day when you went to the class, what was the feeling? क्या लग रहा था? Hesitation. Was there any effect of hesitation on your communication? किस तरह का? बोल नहीं पा रहे थे. So when you are feeling nervous, you are lacking the confidence, or you are hesitant in a given situation, then you are not able to have a fluency in your speech. You look for words, maybe you commit mistakes. This is what normally happens. But think of a situation which is very secure, very safe, and you feel that the other person is welcoming. Then your communication is open and you are very frank with the person and you discuss at length. This is how the psychological feelings, that is the feeling component, affect your communication. And then comes the third context, the social context. What is the status hierarchy between the two people who are involved in the process of communication? Are you talking to your students? Are you talking to a colleague? Are you talking to a head of the department? Are you talking to a director of the institute? Or are you talking to a vice chancellor of a university? Where the degree of formality will be more? Vice chancellor. So that means the greater the difference between the status occupied by the people involved in the process of communication, the greater will be the degree of formality. The fourth context, which is important, is the temporal context, the time dimension. कहते हैं there is always a right time to say anything. So look to the program schedule which you have in colleges. All theory classes are in the morning, all practical classes are kept in the afternoon. Why so? Why so? Yes? Why so? Okay. So the theory classes require the learner to pay attention, to concentrate, and when they are fresh, they are able to focus, concentrate, pay attention, and that's why all theory classes are kept in the morning. And when you are involved in doing the task, you don't need to pay deliberate attention. So that is why all practical classes are kept in the afternoon. So the time element is also very important, and physical, social, psychological, and temporal context, they interact among themselves to determine the nature and content of any communication, right? Now the same model can be translated into the classroom communication model. When I say can be converted into the classroom communication model, the classroom communication passes through 5 different phases. The very first stage is the formulation of message. My question to you is, what guides you when you formulate a message which you would like to give to your students in theory class or in the laboratory class or so on? What is it that guides you? Yes? बेसिस क्या होता है मैसेज को बनाने के लिए? नहीं, मैं प्रिंसिपल नहीं पूछ रही हूँ, मैं पूछ रही हूँ व्हाट इज द बेसिस फॉर डिजाइनिंग द मैसेज. आप कहाँ, विच गोल कहाँ से मिलता है? सिलेबस. ओके, सो आपका करिकुलम और द सिलेबस is the basis for formulation of message. You check the syllabus, which gives you the breadth and scope of the topic. You try to collect information from various sources. You try to sift that information, organize and sequence the information, and then you try to select symbols to transfer the message to the receiver. That is called encoding of message. Then comes transmission of message. So a teacher selects multiplicity of channels. As a teacher, you are standing in the classroom, you are also using a PowerPoint presentation. Maybe you bring a real machinery, real tool, real equipment, or you bring a video clip which you would like to use in the classroom situation. So a teacher is using multiplicity of channels to transfer the message to the receiver. That is where you have the channel. Then the student is involved in the decoding of message, and feedback is sent back to the teacher. So these 5 stages, you can see here that teacher is the primary sender of the message in the classroom. He is involved in formulation of message, the encoding of message, the transmission of message, and decoding is carried out by the receiver, and students are the primary receiver in the classroom situation. So they provide feedback to the teacher, and then the subsequent messages are designed based upon the feedback received from the student. Say you pose a question after you have taught a concept and you don't get the right answer. Now this is giving you feedback that either you need to explain the concept again, or you need to exemplify the concept so that students can understand. होता है ऐसे ही ना? But in classroom situation, what happens? Your students sometimes take up the role of the sender of the message. कब करते हैं? कब student sender बन जाते हैं and teacher receiver बन जाता है? Okay. When the students pose a question, when the students try to clarify their doubts, when the student try to supplement the information, students become the sender of the message and are involved in formulation of message, encoding of message, transmission of message, and the teacher becomes the recipient of the message and he provides feedback to the student. So that's why it is referred to as the interactive model of classroom communication. Fine? Any questions so far? Any question from the center? No? Okay. So let's proceed with, if classroom communication is such an important aspect, what are the factors that can affect the effectiveness of communication in classroom? Batao. What could be the possible factors affecting the effectiveness of communication? कौन किसने करना है well prepared or organized? Teacher. That means one of the factors is all those factors which relate to teacher. और कुछ? हम्म 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 Okay. So आपका कहना है it is not only teacher related factors but student related factors also affect the effectiveness of communication. The third component is how you design the message. Even that message designing can affect the effectiveness of communication. So there are a number of variables related to message. Then likewise, the method and media you adopt to transfer the message, that will affect the effectiveness. And lastly, what kind of learning environment exists in your class, that is going to impinge upon the effectiveness. So we'll be taking teacher related factors, student related factors, message related factors which can affect the effectiveness of communication. So coming to teacher related factors, एक आपने मुझे बताया, जल्दी से कुछ और बताना चाहेंगे? आपने एक कहा कि preparation on the part of the teacher. What else can affect? Teacher related क्या चीजें हैं जो affect करेंगी? Yes? बोलिए. What are the teacher related factors which can affect the communication effectiveness? Okay, teachers communication ability. और कुछ? That will be communication का component ही आ गया, voice. और कुछ? Language which the teacher is using, that is also part of communication. Any other? Any response from the center, please? Riyat Bara. कौन सी चीजें हैं which are related to the teacher which can affect the effectiveness? Yes? जी रियाद बारा ग्रुप क्या हो गया जी रिस्पांस तो दीजिए कैन आई गेट अ रिस्पांस फ्रॉम कॉलेज ऑफ इंजीनियरिंग बीकानेर
सर ये चालू है कौन है
any teacher related factor which affects the communication effectiveness
हेलो फोन करो सर
हाँ जी सर बोलिए प्लीज not able to switch on the mic
हेलो
सर इंटरनल माइक पे ही बोल दीजिए आप we are not getting the audio बोल ही नहीं रहे हैं चलो anyway I'm not getting a response from any of the centers so let's
हेलो
proceed with what the participants here have said सर माइक के बिना ही बोलिए आप internal inbuilt mic will work
इनबिल्ट नहीं है हमारे
सर आपकी आवाज हमें वैसे आ रही है
आ रही हेलो
हाँ जी बोलिए प्लीज
आर यू एबल टू हियर माय वॉइस
जी
madam actually for the communication purpose between the teacher and the students the first thing is very important the medium or the language which is actually going to be used
ओके
it should
सो
it should
फाइन
be it should be understandable to the audience or the students properly
जी
and they are able to exactly to get or receive the exactly meaning what the
ओके
teacher is want to deliver actually so this
फाइन
is very
थैंक यू हाँ जी एनी अदर सर लैंग्वेज के अलावा
method of teaching
सेकंड इज
yeah आप बोलो madam.
Sir, ma'am, clarity of voice, pitch, uh, the teacher herself or himself, how much he is clear on the subject.
ओके
These are the things I think. Knowledge of subject. Okay.
I think thank you so much for giving me so many good points. So let's start with the teacher related factors. The very first factor which I'm taking up is from which life position the teacher is going to the class and speaking to the students. If you are familiar with Eric Berne, according to Eric Berne, every individual perceives himself or herself to be either okay or not okay because each one of us has been given certain strengths, certain weaknesses. As an individual, do you think that you are having certain potentialities? You can contribute to the society, you can take your own decision, you can solve your own problems. So if you have this kind of notion, then you are considering yourself, I am okay. But if you are thinking otherwise, that is, you think, I'm worthless, I have no value, I have nothing to contribute, I can't do this, I can't take my decision, and so on, then you are having a negative notion, I am not okay. And likewise, we think about others, either the others are okay or others are not okay. So when we are going to the class, many of us as teachers go with the notion, I am okay, you are not okay. Students, they know nothing. They are empty vessels. They have no previous knowledge, skills or attitude. But this is not true. An individual who has spent almost 16 or 17 years of life has lot of experience at the back. The knowledge conception may be right or wrong, but he or she cannot be treated as an empty vessel. Each individual has potential to excel in one or the other field. So a teacher needs to operate from I am okay, you are okay life position. When we try to operate from I am okay, you are okay life position, we give due respect to the other individual. We try to listen to the other person. We try to respect the point of view of other person. So communication becomes effective, relationships are cordial, and you can continue. So first principle which I have taken up is, as a teacher, when you go to the class, you must go with this notion rather than I am okay, you are not okay. If you adopt that stance, then you become authoritarian. You don't involve your students in teaching learning. You don't give them the opportunity for feedback. So it is primarily one way communication that takes place in the classroom situation. The second principle is have accurate self concept. अपने बारे में जो आपकी धारणा है, that should be realistic. Many teachers, they are, yes, either underestimate themselves or they overestimate themselves. So always try to have a very realistic self-concept, what you know, what you can do, what exactly you are. When you know yourself, then your dealings are very genuine, very authentic. And likewise, a teacher should have very clear and positive perception about the world. Like some people say this world is not worth living. So your motivation goes down. You are not ready to expend effort. So one teacher must always be motivating to the students. And if you have positive perception, then अभी आपके पास बच्चे आ गए क्लास में and you say, what will you do after 4 years? You are wasting your time being a student here. Now all negative. You have to arouse the expectancy level. You have to be very optimistic. You have to instill that optimism in your student. So have correct perception about yourself and about the world in which you are living. I got a response that a teacher needs to have mastery over the subject matter. This is very important. Knowledge is doubling every 7 to 10 years. A teacher needs to always remain updated and current in the subject matter. The shelf value or the shelf value of the degrees is declining. If you take a case of computer science, how long the knowledge remains current? How long? Yes? Computer science के field में 5 years. Less than 1 year. So very right when you say 6 months to 1 year. So there is rapid change in the concepts, in the principles, in the hardware, in the software, in the theories and languages. So a teacher of computer science has always be on his toes and he has to gather new knowledge and new information. Electrical engineering is 2 years, civil engineering is 5 years. So depending upon the subject which you are teaching and the rapidity with which the changes are taking place, you need to acquire new information. Only then you will be able to do justice with the subject. You will be able to relate the subject to other subjects. You will be able to relate the subject to the day-to-day life and the world of work. You'll be able to give applications of whatever you are teaching. So you'll be able to build a meaningful context if you have a very deep knowledge of your subject matter. Another important factor, this was also given, that a teacher needs to have thorough understanding of the learners. The students, if you are not able to pitch your lesson to the level of the learners, then the communication is going to be ineffective. आप language लेके आ जाते हैं and very hi-fi words you use, the students are unable to interpret. They have to look to the dictionary to find out what are the words which are spoken by the teacher. In that case, the communication becomes ineffective. So one has to understand, are my students proficient in English? Are my students from the rural background? Are my students who are very highly intelligent, or are they of average intelligence or below average intelligence? Do my students have the aptitude for learning the subjects? Do my students like to work individually or in groups? Do my students learn better when they listen to someone, when they see something, or when they are involved in doing certain activity? So I have to understand the physical, the social, the cognitive, the emotional factors related to the learners. And if I gather this information, I'll be able to pitch my lesson to the level of the learners, and thus the communication will remain effective. This point, both the centers have given. Our teachers need to be proficient in communication skills. And when we say communication skills, we include both verbal and non-verbal communication skills. I'll come back to this, but let me see. See this. People speak with the vocal organs, but communicate with the whole body. You are not only trying to interpret the words which I'm using, but you are also trying to look at my facial expression, my gestures, my body movement, my posture in the class, and my mannerism. And you are trying to give a meaning to the message which is being transferred to you. And that's why it is said, when we talk about the oral communication, then the impact of words which you use is only 7% on the effectiveness of communication. 38% of the effectiveness is determined by what you say, how you say it. That is your tonal quality. Now let me give one example. I want a glass of water from you, right? रमेश, ठीक है, रमेश को मैं बोल रही हूँ, रमेश, please give me a glass of water. Ramesh, please give me a glass of water. You can see the difference. It is only the words have remained the same, but the tonal quality. When you are using the second sentence, you become authoritative. नहीं लगा? Pehla was a request. The second was that you are using your authority and giving a direction, and you are a bit aggressive and agitated. So your tonal quality makes lot of difference to your communication. Non-verbal behavior. I'll request all the participants to bring the finger here in front of your face. Leo. At the centers also you can experience this. Put your finger on your cheek. How many of you have put your finger on your cheek? Yes? ये cheek है? क्या है? Chin है. This is the difference which is made by the action of a person who is giving you instruction. Action speaks louder than words. जो सामने दिख रहा है आप उसको फॉलो कर रहे हो, जो वर्ड्स बोले जा रहे हैं आप उसको भूल जाते हो. दैट इज द इम्पैक्ट ऑफ योर नॉन वर्बल बिहेवियर. एंड दैट्स व्हाई इट इज सेड the tip, the verbal communication, the words which you use is only the tip of the iceberg. The remaining iceberg is non-verbal communication. Now let's go to verbal communication. You have already given me these points. I need not elaborate on these. You said as a teacher, simplicity of language. If you use a language which is comprehensible to your learners, your message will be across. You will be able to achieve your objectives. But if you're using a difficult language or an alien language which is not known to your students, when I say bon voyage, how many of you can interpret? Yes? मैं French word use कर रही हूँ, best of journey. So not many people would be able to understand unless you know the language. So if you are using a language which is comprehensible, it is interpretable. The language needs to be grammatically correct and technically correct. अगर मैं बोलना चाह रही हूँ करंट, तो मैं करंट ही यूज करूंगी, मैं वोल्टेज नहीं बोल सकती हूँ. अगर वोल्टेज यूज करना चाह रही हूँ तो वोल्टेज यूज करूंगी. ठीक बात है. अगर मैं मीटर यूज कर रही हूँ तो मीटर बोलूंगी, अगर मीटर यूज कर रही हूँ तो अमीटर बोलूंगी. सो वॉट एवर लैंग्वेज टेक्निकली विच इज करेक्ट, आई नीड टू यूज दैट. फाइन. In addition to that, when we talk about the teacher related factor, then it is important the teacher related factor also include other two elements like Angie, बोले. नहीं, I don't need to. Just sorry for this interruption. When we are talking about the teacher related factor, we have already dealt with both communication skills, verbal and non-verbal are important. Non-verbal तो मैंने आपको verbal बता दिए हैं, तो non-verbal क्या है? The number of non-verbal your communication. First, you see the facial expression. Now, as a teacher, what should be the normal facial expression in the class? कैसा होना चाहिए? क्यों? गुस्सा होएगा तो क्या होगा? Okay, so that means a pleasant, smiling face is always welcomed by us. So in normal routine, the teacher facial expression has to be pleasant and smiling. But something which has happened which is not desirable, at that point of time, maybe the anger is reflected on your face. So if your verbal content is matched by your facial expression, then there will be desirable effect on the student. अगर suppose कर लीजिए मैं बच्चे को डांट रही हूँ और मैं बोल रही हूँ तुमने बहुत खराब किया एंड हंस रही हूँ, तो उसका क्या ठीक होएगा असर? नहीं. उसका असर क्या होने वाला? वेरी इजी. जैसे हम बच्चों को घर में डांट देते हैं तो स्माइलिंगली भी से बेटा नहीं ये ठीक नहीं किया आपने, अब उसका इफेक्ट होता है चलो ठीक है, हो गया तो हो गया बस. बट so if you are really angry, then anger must accompany that verbal content which you are using. कभी भी आप बच्चों को अपने जो डर है उसको जाहिर नहीं होने देना. बिकॉज अगर डर आ गया तो दैट शोज दैट वी आर लैकिंग इन आवर कॉन्फिडेंस. So a teacher needs to build the confidence by acquiring the subject knowledge and by acquiring the knowledge about the pedagogy. Gestures. अब देखिए Turn towards your right, turn towards your left, look up above in the sky, here, see here, है ना? So what you are using, your gestures are supporting the verbal content you are using. When you are using your gestures, a visual imagery is created in your mind. बोला क्या जा रहा है वो तो नहीं आप ध्यान दे रहे हो, लेकिन जो एक्शन मैं कर रही हूँ वो आपके दिमाग में कहीं फिक्स हो जाते हैं. And when you are recalling what she said, so you are reminded of turn towards right, turn towards left. तो आपको वो चीजें विजुअल इमेजरी आपकी क्रिएट हो जाती. So gestures are important, but make use of the gestures which are normal, which the context specific. अगर इंडियन कल्चर की बात करें तो अपने में जो एक्सेप्ट किए जाते हैं वही जेस्टर्स हमें यूज करने. Posture of the teacher also makes a difference. Now if I stand like this and start teaching, क्या भावना आएगी आपके, क्या लगेगा? एक्टिव नहीं है, लेजी है, सब्जेक्ट की नॉलेज नहीं है पूरी. So whenever you go to the class, you should have erect posture, and it is always desirable that you stand and teach rather than sit and teach. Eye contact. अब मैं बात करूंगी कि we are going to study communication today, and 4 things I am going to cover here: the concept, the model, and the principles. क्या लगा आपको? एक तो जो सामने लिखा है वो बोल दिया, दूसरा हमें नहीं पढ़ा रही, दीवार को पढ़ा रही. Many of us do this thing. We take PowerPoint and we start reading from the PowerPoint which is projected. So we lose eye contact from our student. So students' concentration is also lost. Or the teacher carries the notes in the classroom, और वो notes से देख के पढ़ा रही हैं, तो she loses the contact with the student. So always go well prepared to the class so that you can speak extempo, and only the main points are written on the PowerPoint which can be projected, right? And you give adequate explanation of that. तो eye contact, अगर आप confident हो अपने subject के बारे में, so you will maintain an eye contact with the class, and it is also desirable that you distribute your eye contact to the whole class. हमारे क्या होता है, 2 favorite student आए, intelligent बच्चे हैं क्लास में. So my whole lecture is directed towards those who can understand. या मुझे पता है मुझे इनसे रिस्पॉन्स मिलने वाला है, so I only pay attention to these by maintaining an eye contact. No, a good teacher, a good communicator is one who is able to address the whole gathering. तो कभी आप इनसे आई कांटेक्ट रखते हैं, कभी उस सेक्शन से रखते हैं, कभी उधर पे रखते हैं. So have a distributed eye contact. I got a response from Bikaner College that your tonal quality that I have proved, your volume, are you audible to your students or not? If you're talking to 10 people, you should be audible to 10. If you're speaking to 80, you should remain audible to 80. Aajkal, you have wireless mics with you. If you think you cannot reach 80 students in the class, use a wireless mic so that students are able to listen to you. जब तक उनको ऑडियो सिग्नल नहीं मिलेगा, learning will not start, right? Which communication is the process of sending and receiving message within a context with some effect and with some opportunity for feedback. क्या लग रहा है? एक ही पिच पे बोल रही हूँ, क्या होने वाला है? Monotony, boredom will creep in the class. तो क्या करना चाहिए टीचर को? There should be pitch variation. When you start a sentence, the pitch is low. When you're in the middle of the sentence, the pitch is highest. When you close the sentence, the pitch drops down again. Maintain that rhythm, and you'll be able to remain, you will be able to get attention of your students. They'll remain attentive. Articulation, pronunciation, they go hand in hand. The better the articulation, the better will be the pronunciation. Pronunciation नहीं, pronunciation. अब क्या हो रहा है कि we, our mother tongue affects our pronunciation of English. लेकिन मैं ये बोलूंगी with practice we can minimize that English. ठीक है? And secondly, अगर इंग्लिश बोलूं तो लगे कि इंग्लिश बोल रही हूँ, अगर पंजाबी बोलूं तो लगना चाहिए कि पंजाबी बोल रही हूँ, अगर हिंदी बोलूं तो लगना चाहिए हिंदी बोल रही हूँ. So that kind of capability the teachers need to develop, because whatever your students are learning, अगर आपकी pronunciation ठीक है ना, तो बच्चों की pronunciation ठीक होगी. अगर आप करेक्ट इंग्लिश बोल रहे हैं तो बच्चे भी करेक्ट इंग्लिश का प्रयोग सीख जाएंगे. सो दैट काइंड ऑफ प्रोफिशिएंसी द टीचर मस्ट हैव, राइट. देन आर्टिफैक्ट्स, आप क्या ड्रेस पहन के जा रहे हैं. अब मैं यहाँ पे एक बहुत पिंक कलर की साड़ी पहन के, खूब सारी ज्वेलरी पहन के क्लास में आ जाऊं तो कैसा लगेगा? है फैशन शो में जा रही है टीचर. वेरी राइट. सो आई कैन नॉट कम टू द क्लास. माई ड्रेस हैज टू बी फॉर्मल. फॉर्मल मीन्स अकॉर्डिंग टू द कॉन्टेक्स्ट. मैरिज में जा रही हूँ, पिंक साड़ी विद ज्वेलरी वुड डू. बट क्लास में आ रही हूँ, सोबर and less of jewelry, so that students are able to focus on message rather than on my jewelry and my dress. And casual kabhi nahi banna. Always go formally dressed to your class. इसी तरह कुछ लोग परफ्यूम यूज कर लेते हैं बहुत तगड़ा, उसके जो हाँ तीखा. So that perfume would create headache in the minds of number of people. So avoid, go use a very light perfume if you are in the habit of. और कुछ लोग कानों में भी बालियां पहन लेते हैं. There are teachers also जिनके कान में बाली होती है, जेंट्स टीचर. तो बच्चे क्या करते हैं, वही कॉपी करते हैं, वही देखते हैं, उसी को सोचते हैं. They are not listening to what you are saying in the class. So pay attention to that whatever artifacts. अब जैसे मैं मोबाइल भी कैरी करती हूँ, पर्स भी कैरी करती हूँ, की भी कैरी करती हूँ. So many accessories, they create hindrance in the process of communication. बच्चों का ध्यान, मैम कौन सा मोबाइल यूज करी है, किस ब्रांड का करी है, कौन से वाला है, लेटेस्ट वाला नहीं है. All these thought processes are going on. So they'll miss a part of your lecture, but they'll pay more attention to those accessories. कम से कम accessories क्लास में लेके जाइए. टाइम you must think. अब देखिए, मैं कहती हूँ 5 मिनट रह गए हैं मेरे, हैं, और 5 मिनट में मैं नया टॉपिक शुरू करने वाली. Would it make sense? I have to be very sure that there is right time. और सपोज कर लीजिए एक बच्चे ने गलती की, मैं सारी क्लास में उसको बहुत जोर से डांट देती. It is also not fair. हो गया? So proximate space, how much distance you maintain. कभी कभी बच्चों को आप क्लास में काम दे देते, then you go very near to the student. The student becomes conscious. बच्चा क्या करता है, या तो जमीन की तरफ देखता है या मैम की मुंह की तरफ देखता है. He stops working. Maintain a minimum distance which is needed so that, हम कहते हैं ना क्या सिर के ऊपर चढ़े आ रहे हो, होता है ऐसा, सुना कभी? हमने बोला भी बहुत बार होगा, सुना भी बहुत बार होगा. So keep that in mind. जी, आपका जो कहते हैं when you are two people talking face to face and you are very intimate, तो arm's length पे बात करते हैं, right? मैसेज रिलेटेड फैक्टर्स हैं. जो भी आप पढ़ाने जा रहे हो उसके ऑब्जेक्टिव्स शुड बी वेरी क्लियर टू. व्हाई आई एम गोइंग एंड टीचिंग स्ट्रेंथ ऑफ मटेरियल, व्हाई आई एम टीचिंग इंटीग्रेशन टू द स्टूडेंट्स ऑफ इलेक्ट्रिकल एंड मैकेनिकल इंजीनियरिंग, व्हाई आई एम टीचिंग professional communication course and the various topics included in that. So you should be very clear of the objectives, then you'll be able to convey that purpose of teaching that to your students. So the communication will be effective because you'll be able to arouse the expectancy level of your students. Relevance to the objectives. अब जो भी आप इंफॉर्मेशन कलेक्ट करते हैं या जो भी मैसेज डिजाइन करते हैं, that should be relevant to the objectives with which you are going to the class. तभी कहते हैं कि ना तो आपका, कहते हैं ना कि घंटा लगा गया पर समझ नहीं आया क्या कहना चाह रहा था, होता है ऐसे. So that kind of feeling you should not generate among your students. Another, जो भी पढ़ाने जाओ, proper sequencing of the content. एक तो logical sequencing होती है, concept पढ़ाऊंगी फिर types पढ़ाऊंगी फिर applications पढ़ाऊंगी, ये logical sequencing है. दूसरा है psychological sync. पहले आसान चीजें पढ़ाऊंगी फिर डिफिकल्ट, कॉम्प्लेक्स चीजें पढ़ाऊंगी, पहले और डिफिकल्ट चीजें पढ़ाऊंगी. ठीक है. ऐसे ही पहले मैं जो वो जानते हैं वहां से शुरू होके उनको अननोन के ऊपर लेके जाऊंगी. पहले मैं उनके कॉन्टेक्स्ट की बात करूंगी, आपके गांव में क्या होता है, आपके शहर में क्या होता है, देन आई से हमारी स्टेट में क्या होता है, फिर हमारी कंट्री में क्या होता है, फिर मैं लेके जाऊंगी कि इंटरनेशनल पर्सपेक्टिव क्या है. दैट विल बी वेरी रेलेवेंट, इजी टू द फॉर द स्टूडेंट टू अंडरस्टैंड. ना तो इंफॉर्मेशन अंडरलोड होना चाहिए, ना इंफॉर्मेशन ओवरलोड होना चाहिए. जितना समय आपके पास है, ट्राई टू design message keeping in view the time which is available to you. अगर बहुत ज्यादा इंफॉर्मेशन ले लेते हो, रेट ऑफ डिलीवरी विल बी फास्ट. अगर कम ले लेते हो तो रेट ऑफ डिलीवरी विल बी स्लो एंड मे बी द यू बोर द स्टूडेंट कि अरे आगे तो चलो एक ही चीज पे टिक गए हो. सो दैट काइंड ऑफ यूज ऑफ सिंबल्स. आप जो सिंबल सिलेक्ट करें दे शुड बी appropriate. यूज ऑफ लैंग्वेज, मैसेज को डिजाइन करते हुए आप जो लैंग्वेज का प्रयोग कर रहे हैं दैट हैज टू बी कॉम्प्रिहेंडेबल टू द लर्नर. मैसेज में it is not only the topic which you are going to cover, but you are taking certain tasks, exercises also, and they will ensure the active involvement of your learners. और communication तभी effective होगी when you try to involve your learners in exercises, problem solving, hands-on task and so on. So give them the opportunity. आपका मैसेज ऐसा होना चाहिए कि अगर आप 20-25 मिनट पढ़ा रहे हैं तो 10 मिनट आप कोई टास्क, कोई एक्टिविटी बच्चों को दे रहे हैं, so that they can either discuss among themselves, clarify those things, or they apply that knowledge to a given situation. So learning would be more. और हमेशा कोशिश कीजिए एग्जाम्पल्स एंड नॉन एग्जाम्पल. अब देखिए ये जो बात आपने कही थी स्टूडेंट रिलेटेड फैक्टर्स, तो स्टूडेंट के बारे में यू हैव टू कलेक्ट लॉट ऑफ इंफॉर्मेशन अबाउट योर स्टूडेंट्स. What is the level of knowledge, skills and attitude he brings to the class? Whatever is prerequisite to learn this particular topic, how much or what is the degree of extent of that knowledge, skills and attitude? तभी कहते हैं you must assess. अपनी क्लास पढ़ाने से पहले जो उनको आना चाहिए, पहले एक क्विक रैपिड फायर क्वेश्चन राउंड या a multiple choice test you can give to your students, or make sure that you know what is their achievement in physics or chemistry or in mathematics at 10+2 level. Motivation. If the students are motivated, my task is simple. But if my students are not motivated, my task becomes challenging or difficult. So I need to gain attention of my student. This point I have taken yesterday. I need to build the relevance of my topic which I am teaching to arouse the motivational level. I need to generate satisfaction among my students. How do I generate satisfaction? I set rules for my class. I remain objective when I check the assignment. I deal with the responses. I deal with the behavior of the students in the class. अगर मैं सबके लिए ऑब्जेक्टिव हूँ, एक ही सेट ऑफ रूल्स अप्लाई करती हूँ, मेरे स्टूडेंट्स क्या है, सेटिस्फाइड रहेंगे. अगर मैं अपने ऑब्जेक्टिव्स को अचीव करती हूँ, then my students will remain satisfied. So you need to build confidence among your students. तो build कैसे करेंगे confidence? By giving examples, by giving them practice, by giving them reinforcement, by giving them the feedback which is needed. So there are 4 major strategies: gain attention, build relevance, build a confidence, and generate satisfaction among your students to motivate them. Then comes your interest. So interest कब आता है आपको किसी लेक्चर में? Yes, जब एक्टिविटीज होती हैं, जब इन्वॉल्वमेंट होती है. So why can't we think of कि हम अपने बच्चों का इंटरेस्ट जाने, are they interested or are they not interested in what I am teaching? And to generate interest, involvement or engagement of the learner is important. So think of exercises, tasks, hands-on practice and group discussions, etc. Learning styles. I said some students learn when they listen, some students learn when they see the things, some students learn when they do the things. So as a teacher, cater to the needs of various students in the class. Variety of activity. उनका अपने बारे में, how much they know about themselves. So that is also important. कई बार होता है मुझे पता ही नहीं है कि मेरी क्या पोटेंशियलिटी, मैं कहाँ तक अचीव कर सकती हूँ, कहाँ तक जा सकती हूँ. It's not clear. So a teacher need to take care of the various aspects of personality: physical, social, emotional, cognitive. And then based upon that information, I need to design my message. I need to select the methods and media. अब बात करेंगे जो मेथड आप सिलेक्ट करते हैं. Every time you go to the class, lecture method. But lecture method has certain advantages, certain disadvantages. If I have to simply give information, lecture method is good enough. But if I want to develop ability to apply, ability to analyze, ability to evaluate, ability to create, then lecture method is not the ultimate. So you need to think of seminars, group discussions, brainstorming, then tutorials, then demonstration, then collaborative learning, peer learning, etc. So depending upon the objectives you want to achieve, make judicious selection of the method, instructional, method. That means लेक्चर पर देना है, ब्रेनस्टॉर्मिंग कराना है, केस स्टडी यूज करनी है, ट्यूटोरियल्स यूज करने हैं, डेमोन्स्ट्रेशन यूज करनी है, कोलैबोरेटिव, ये डिसाइड. देन द मीडिया, पावर पॉइंट. अभी आपने यू हैव सीन यस्टरडे डॉक्टर पुनिया's सेशन इनॉग्रल एड्रेस. आपने देखा होगा डिफरेंस. ही यूजेस लेस ऑफ टेक्सचुअल इंफॉर्मेशन, more of visual, and visual attracts you. This is true with every human being. So can we think of that we create more visuals and we use animation, simulation, multimedia packages rather than simply using the textual information. But make use of variety. Real चीजों को भी लेके जाओ क्लास में, अगर लेके जा सकते हो. जिसको नहीं लेके जा सकते उसकी वीडियो दिखा दो. So think of the possibilities of using variety of media and must pay attention to the quality of media. अगर मैं PPTs ले गई अब एक लाइन हरे में लिख दूं, एक लाइन पिंक में लिख दूं, एक लाइन येलो में लिख दूं, कंफ्यूजिंग द स्टूडेंट. इतने सारे रंग देख के वैसे ही यू पर्सन इज बैफल्ड. सो आई नीड टू हैव वॉट एवर मीडियम, चाहे वो पावर पॉइंट है, चाहे वो वीडियो फिल्म है, चाहे वो मल्टीमीडिया पैकेजेस हैं, इट शुड बी ऑफ हाई क्वालिटी. ओनली देन इट विल सर्व द पर्पस. And you should learn to integrate media in teaching learning. हम लोग क्या करते हैं? We take a video clip and we say, okay, this topic I'm going to do, so I'm showing a video clip to you. Khatam. That is not integration. Integration of video is if you raise number of questions, then you show the video, then you ask the student to answer those questions, maybe in a group discussion, maybe you try to have answer from each one of them. So you should have pre-screening activity and post-screening activity planned to ensure learning on the part of the student. Right? So that is integration. वही जो आप बात कह रहे थे कि मैं पावर पॉइंट तो ले जाती हूँ, but then I do word by word reading of that PowerPoint. So that will not serve the purpose. तो PowerPoint ही छोड़ दो, फिर मेरी जरूरत क्या है क्लास में? Students can read word by word. अब लर्निंग एनवायरनमेंट जो लास्ट है, पहली चीज क्लास साइज. अगर आपके पास छोटा स्मॉल ग्रुप है 15 to 20, स्टैटिस्टिकली लेस देन 30, है ना, तो आपकी जो इंटरेक्शन है वो बहुत अच्छी होगी एंड यू विल बी एबल टू इंटरेक्ट विद ईच वन इन द क्लास. लेकिन जैसे ही आपका ग्रुप बड़ा होता चला जा रहा है, आपकी इंटरेक्शन के ऊपर इफेक्ट पड़ता है. बट देयर आर वेज एंड मीन्स ऑफ ब्रेकिंग द लार्ज क्लास इनटू स्मॉल क्लास. आप छोटे छोटे ग्रुप बना दीजिए which operate within the class. अब what I do, I take up case studies. मेरी क्लास थी about 34-35, तो मैंने उनको क्या करा, 6 to 7 members, they were in one group and they were given a case study, so they are discussing among themselves. तो आप सब बच्चों को आपस में 6 के 6 आपस में डिस्कस कर रहे हैं. So I could go to 6 groups working in the class and interact with them. But 36 को एक साथ नहीं कर पा रही. Then आप जब ऐसी एक्टिविटीज ढूंढेंगे, go on changing the groups. आज मैंने आप तीनों को ग्रुप बनाया, कल मैं इन तीनों को एक ग्रुप बना देती हूँ. So different people will have the flavor of interacting with others. आपकी क्लास में सीटिंग अरेंजमेंट क्या है? अब देखिए, अगर ऐसा अरेंजमेंट है जो मेरे पास है अभी, तो मैं ग्रुप डिस्कशन नहीं करा सकती. ग्रुप डिस्कशन के लिए मुझे क्या चाहिए? A semi-circular or a round kind of arrangement where people can see the face of each other and discuss the issue. तो seating arrangement also makes a difference. अब देखिए, मैंने आपको इंडिविजुअली काम दे दिया, लेकिन चेयर्स के बीच में कोई जगह ही नहीं है कि आई कैन गो इनसाइड एंड आई कैन सी व्हाट एन इंडिविजुअल इज डूइंग. तो आपकी कम्युनिकेशन पे उसका एडवर्स इफेक्ट पड़ रहा है. सो व्हाट काइंड ऑफ कम्युनिकेशन यू वुड लाइक टू गिव टू योर स्टूडेंट, उसके लिए एप्रोप्रिएट सीटिंग अरेंजमेंट भी चाहिए. क्या आप बच्चों के साथ, स्टूडेंट्स के साथ यू एंजॉय द रेपो? If you are able to enjoy and build that rapport with your student, then your students would be interacting with you. They'll be giving you the feedback. So when the communication is open, the feedback channel is open, learning will be more. Right? So make use of that. They'll be also coming out with their problems. Cooperation and competition. This is an era where you need to promote cooperation rather than competition. तो मैं क्या करती थी क्लास में अपनी करती हूँ, I give the task in a group, so I ask the people to work on the problem, make one presentation. All the students, they are getting the benefit of evaluation. And I didn't evaluate. I asked the other group members to evaluate. बच्चों को ही कहा कि आप evaluate कीजिए एक दूसरे को. So you create an environment where they are objective. They also learn how to assess a particular thing. Opportunity for feedback. Communication is a two-way process. And if you close down the feedback channel, you are not sure whether the receiver not. So always keep the channels of communication open. Opportunity for experimentation. Give them opportunity to explore ideas, processes, and also give them opportunity to experiment with new ideas, new techniques. And then you will see learning would be more, right? Reinforcement. So if you get a desired, so learning environment agar conducive hai, and you are getting the desired behavior, desired performance, you need to reward, you need to recognize, you need to appreciate. And we are human being hungry of appreciation. हर कोई चाहता है अच्छा काम करो तो appreciation मिलनी चाहिए, होता नहीं? Even at this age, I also look for some recognition, some appreciation. होता है कि नहीं? तो बच्चे भी तो चाहते हैं. ओ तो बड़ी दूर दी गल है. आई थिंक दैट लेवल, उस लेवल पे कंट्रीब्यूशन होना जरूरी है नेशनल लेवल पे. सो आई वुड से these are some of the factors which affect the effectiveness of your communication, and if you pay attention to these small things, then you can be more effective in your communication. So thank you very much for participating in the session. Any questions? First, I can take up Bikaner. जी मैम कोई क्वेश्चन है? हाँ जी जी बोलिए प्लीज.
हेलो
जी जी बोलिए.
आपने जो कम्युनिकेशन मेथड बताया क्लासरूम टीचिंग में, उसमें आपने एक पॉइंट बताया यूज ऑफ सिंबल्स.
हाँ जी.
So what it means, what are those symbols and what is that actually? I want to understand that point.
Sir, when we talk about symbols, they can be verbal or non-verbal symbols. जब आप language का प्रयोग करते हैं, so all your words, they are also symbols, right? If you are using multiplication, division, this is algebraic symbols which are used. They are also symbols. But when I am saying symbols, say for example, I am using voltage. Voltage का भी symbol है, resistance का भी symbol है. So technical symbols are also there. So all those symbols are to be technically correct.
No, madam, symbols means your body posture symbols or means
नहीं नहीं
you
नहीं नहीं,
want to
body posture का symbol नहीं बोल रही हूँ. The words. पहली चीज है जो लैंग्वेज यूज करें उसके सिंबल ठीक है. दूसरी चीज है जो नॉन वर्बल सिंबल्स आप यूज कर रहे हैं वो भी हैं. और नॉन वर्बल इज नॉट, योर सिंबल्स आर नॉट बॉडी पोस्चर. एनी अदर?
Yes sir, one more question.
जी सर.
Hello.
जी जी बोलिए.
This is Dr. YN Singh, madam. And first of all, I want to congratulate you for delivering very nice and very simple presentation. It is very informative also, and we learned a lot. You told actually in between this presentation that we should deal with the students with the smiling face. चाहे आप गुस्सा हो तो भी आपको स्माइल देके उनसे बात करनी है.
नहीं 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 नहीं. I think, sir, there is communication gap here. I never said this. I said in normal circumstances, the teacher has to remain calm, relaxed, and should have smiling face. But if you are really angry with your students, then anger must be exhibited, because your verbal content should match your non-verbal. If your non-verbal is matching your verbal content, then only the desirable effect will be there. तो ये कहीं पे कम्युनिकेशन गैप रह गया है.
अच्छा, मीन्स
हाँ,
मतलब जब आप डांट रहे हैं तो एंगर शो होना चाहिए.
अगर आप गुस्सा हैं बहुत ज्यादा और एंगर आपका नहीं रिफ्लेक्ट हो रहा, तो फिर उसका डिजायरेबल इफेक्ट नहीं होगा स्टूडेंट के ऊपर. वही
राइट,
चीज
राइट,
मैं
वही मैं
हंस
कह
के
रहा
बोलूं तो उसका इफेक्ट नहीं होगा. जैसे बच्चों को हम घर में कर लेते हैं, तो देन इट विल
था.
नॉट हैव दैट इफेक्ट.
हाँ, right. हाँ,
जी
मेरा
सर.
सोचना है कि बच्चे अगर छोटे हैं या लोअर क्लासेस में हैं उनके साथ तो फिर भी ठीक है, लेकिन अगर मैच्योर क्लासेस में बच्चे हैं, हायर क्लासेस में हैं, तो
हाँ जी.
एक्सप्रेशन शो होना चाहिए, एंगर शो होना चाहिए, देन ओनली दे आर अंडरस्टैंड द थिंग.
नहीं सर, अब देखिए ऐसा है, इट इज डिपेंड अपॉन द सिचुएशन. If the consequences are going to be severe, then you need to exhibit the anger, but otherwise not. Otherwise not. अगर किसी सिचुएशन का consequences are going to be dire, then a teacher has the right to exhibit anger also.
ओके, थैंक यू मैडम.
हाँ जी.
हेलो.
Any other?
हेलो
जी सर.
मैडम, one more question.
हाँ जी.
Actually, you said that the teacher should come in proper dress in the
Dress.
classroom,
जी.
less of jewelry and other things, mobile phones should be.
हाँ जी.
And the same thing is applicable on the students also.
Right. It is applicable to the student
Teacher
also.
can lose his or her concentration if the students are coming with means more of the means their uniform is not proper.
हाँ जी.
So, is it true? Means I want to ask.
जी. Sir, just have a look here. Sir, just have a look at the slide. Now here you see the teachers. नहीं नहीं, वो फाइनल ओसी वाला कर दो परमजीत. Final OC. Now here when you say one is the teacher aspect, you all agree with me. Teacher need to come in proper dress. Fine. And if I go like this, मैंने ये example आपको दी थी. So teachers are going, students, everybody else is going to pay more. ਇਹਦੇ ਥੱਲੇ ਲੈ ਜਾਓ, ਬਿਲਕੁਲ ਥੱਲੇ ਪਿੱਛੇ ਲੈ ਜਾਓ, ਲੈ ਜਾਓ. ਉਹ ਨਹੀਂ, ਅੱਛਾ ਉਹ ਦੇਖ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ. ਹਾਂਜੀ. ਉਹ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਉੱਪਰ आओ, yes. ऊपर, उसके ऊपर मेंटेन आई कांटेक्ट, उसको नहीं नहीं. हाँ जी, जाओ जाओ जाओ. ये पता किहड़े नंबर है, नंबर दसा आ गया. हाँ जी. अब आप देख सकते हैं यहाँ पे. तो आपने ये दूसरा पहलू दूजा भी कर दो दी परम जी. हाँ जी. So if I go like this, students are going to pay more attention to my dress, my jewelry and so on. और आपने जो अपना पक्ष रखा है वो भी बहुत ठीक है. And I quote one real example here. In one of the engineering colleges, there were two sisters who were studying. They had a military background and they were coming to the college in short dresses. And the lecturers there were also very young. The people who were graduated, they were teaching those young students. And even in the group, there were young people, boys and girls. It is a co-educational institution. So the complaint came from the lecturers that there are two students who come not well dressed and our attention is diverted. They conveyed their feeling to the director of the institute. The director of the institute called those two students and requested them they should come to the institution well dressed. What happened? The girl students were little agitated and they said, you have nothing to say regarding our dress. It is our own life, and we have every right to come in this dress to the college. Ultimately, the director invited the parents of the students. Parents were also found to be of the same opinion that director or the teacher has nothing to say to our children once we allow them to wear these dresses. The management took a very serious note of this, and the two students were given the ultimatum: either you change the way you come to the college or you leave the college. And this is a real incident. The parents withdrew their wards. They didn't allow them to continue with the studies. Now see, where is the, this is very right that when we don't go properly dressed, we give opportunity to others to comment upon, and to also you attract or you distract. So it is true what you have said. And I would see, I am of the firm belief that the institutions which have made dress compulsory, they are rather good. They are disciplining the students. They are not creating division among the students. Abhi kya ho raha hai? Some people who belong to elite class, they come dressed in branded shoes, branded jeans, branded um, dress, and then the other students who are coming from rural background, not very well off families, sometimes they feel the pinch of it, and they also would like to be dressed like that. तो वो कुछ भी करने के लिए तैयार हैं to possess those things. ऐसा भी होता है. So I would say the institutions, especially the professional institutions, like your technical institutions, engineering colleges, diploma, there should be a decorum maintained, and maybe the students are requested to wear simple dresses. And maybe you can prescribe a dress also. There can be for and against
Yeah.
opinion, but this is my personal opinion.
Yes, ma'am. I am agree with this. Thank you.
Thank you very much.